What if the dead don't just linger in old buildings? What if they come to you? Tonight's guest has been living that reality since childhood. Welcome back to The Common Historian, where history meets the supernatural. I'm Jeremy, the Common Historian, and each week we explore the haunted intersections between our past and the paranormal. Tonight, I'm joined by a medium who has spent decades bridging the world of the living and the dead, working alongside paranormal teams around the country and helping those seeking closure when nothing else could. She's also the co host of the Medium Frequency podcast on All Access Network. Welcome, Raven. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show.
Oh, no problem. You've been on my list. My list is long. I have many people that I end up getting to you eventually, and I have so many I want on my show, and only so many shows to fill. So yeah, I was excited to have when you were able to join. So can you kind of, and you probably get asked this a lot, but how did you first tell that you were had some gifts?
So it started in young childhood. I had experiences of different metaphysical types. However, my mediumship skills really kicked in junior high. Unfortunately, there was a girl that was murdered, and she was in my choir, and she was not the nicest person when she was alive, but there was a single beautiful act of kindness that she ended up showing me. And it made me think maybe there are things going on in her life that perhaps caused her some pain that I'm unaware of. So I started to really feel like I was going to try and be a little more understanding, even if she wasn't always the nicest person. Unfortunately, I came back to school the following after the weekend, and unfortunately, she had passed away. And it was an incredibly difficult situation for me because there was a girl in the gym that was just a worse person as far as personality. Like, she was a bully that was laughing about it, and it made me so upset. But I had gone home that night and I started seeing her, and I wasn't raised in a family where mediumship was a common type thing.
Yeah.
So it was pretty scary for me in the beginning when I saw her. And I pretty much went from going ahead and seeing her and being able to connect with others to where it wasn't something that stopped. So I started to continuously go ahead and work with the dead. Oh my goodness, work with the dead. I started seeing the dead everywhere, and it just ended up being one of those things where it really was life transforming for me. And then it developed into other gifts that I had. So that's how it started for me.
Right, you said you had very it wasn't your household wasn't you had no experience with mediumship growing up. How did you kind of piece that all together, the framework for what you were experiencing and how to deal with that? 'Cause I imagine that was quite scary.
My parents thought it was just bad dreams because of the fact that she had passed away. But I just knew that there was something more to it because I started seeing others everywhere I went. It didn't matter if it was inside or outside or where it was. And I was like, there's got to be something more to this. So I started taking classes, and the classes ended up being helpful to me because I didn't really know much about any of the spiritual aspects that I learned about as time went on. As time went on, I ended up going to more workshops started working with more people, and it ended up being something pretty transformative. So, very happy about that.
Now, if I remember correctly, you do some past life work. Is that
That is
correct?
correct. Yes. So I started going to, I was doing hypnotherapy for a while, and I went through training. And then I had gone to a metaphysical workshop that Brian Weiss was helping at. And basically, I found out about past life regression. I thought this is the coolest thing. So I started working with past life regression work. And I thought, what if I could use past life regression work to be able to help others with their growth and clearing out any energy that may be lingering from either past life resonance, or to help them understand certain things in their current life if there's a previous life occurrence that can help with some of those things. Sometimes, like for example, we have different interests in life. We have interests in things that we don't understand why we have interest in. And sometimes that can go back to a past life resonance. So I use past life regression work to help with a person's life in the current, and also to do trauma work, trauma healing, and that kind of work, and help with shadow work as well, and helping them to understand certain aspects about themselves. And sometimes it's just for fun, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes people just want to have a past life regression because they think it's incredible and it's fun. But that's why I do it, because I want to be able to help people transform their lives and help them in the future, because I have seen a significant proof that it does work when you do certain kinds of clearings and lead somebody back to that previous lifeline to help them feel more in balance with themselves. So it really ends up being something that can be beneficial for someone's personal growth, as well as just someone's own energy and understanding of certain things about themselves. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it just goes. I had heard you did that, and I was like, I need to ask her all about that because it fascinates me as well.
Yeah.
So, how does mediumship actually work for you mechanically? Are you hearing, feeling, seeing, or is it something that doesn't have a clear words for it?
Mediumship for me is a combination of all of those. It depends on the spirit that's coming through. Sometimes it can be very physical, like where they're physically coming through. Sometimes it can be telepathically, where I'm hearing and getting downloads from them or images from them. Sometimes I hear them. Sometimes there are tastes and smells that come up, like things that they used to like sugar cookies, or sometimes it can be things that are not so great, but it helps me to understand what's going on energetically with them. And then also it's the capacity to see where certain energies rise from. So it's looking at, let's say somebody is dealing that crossed over, had lung cancer. There are certain colors and lights that sometimes resonate and light up for me within that person's body, so I can get a little bit of an idea of where certain energies are coming from. It's not to replace a doctor or anything, but it's to explain what they're trying to show me when they crossed over, with certain aspects of what they experienced in their life, or what occurred to them, what occurred for them as they were crossing over.
Okay. Now, has your gift evolved or shifted over the years, or has it been the same since you were a young girl?
It has evolved. So when I first started with mediumship, it was quite scary for me, as I had stated before. And I really didn't understand why I was seeing spirits everywhere. And I didn't know what they wanted. And I had some other personal experiences that were outside of souls that had crossed over, that I had to learn to decipher what was a soul and what was another type of energy. And so over time, it used to be where I would see them as I would see a normal person every single day, but I would see them in the way that they passed, and it really scared me at the time when I was younger. I found out through a local witch that worked in the area that you can work with boundaries within boundaries of the energies that you're working with. So I ended up setting the boundary, please don't show explain to me what happened, but it's really hard for me to see it at that age. So I started to learn how to have boundaries. Now, some souls, they don't listen to boundaries. And that's where you're setting up your protection and your energies. But there have been times where those boundaries have not been respected and I have to reinstate certain things. But it's funny that you asked that because just last night I had a full apparition come into our house that I was absolutely not expecting. And it happened to be a friend of mine that passed away many years ago.
Oh,
And that's the first time I had seen a friend that had crossed over become a full apparition for me, as solid as you and I are. Like I could have
yeah.
reached out and touched him. And that's a newer development within my mediumship. I would also say my mediumship has developed to where I know what energy limitations I need to work within and then where I can extend my energy a little bit.
Yeah, that's great. That it seems like you're expanding more into different and finding new expanded upon gifts. Now, I did remember something that I wanted to ask about the past life, and so I'm
Mhm.
going to come back. We're gonna circle back to the
Okay.
past life conversation. When someone comes to you, kind of carrying the weight of a past life, how do you even begin to unpack that?
So that is a fantastic question. So there are several different aspects to past life energy work. So we look at there's an interview process that I go through with them, and I will ask what their specific goals are within the past life regression to understand. It is not to replace a doctor or someone who is perhaps getting support in mental health, but it is to help the individual with alignment and feeling more connected into the present instead of something that resonates from the past or certain fear aspects. So, for example, if somebody is afraid of spiders, looking at that and then being able to assess where that comes from, diving deeper into that and asking, did somebody have something happen where a spider bit them? Is it something that's actually in the present? Or is it something that you don't know where that irrational fear is coming from? I don't call it irrational because I feel like it's very real for the individual that's in front of me.
Yeah.
So when we look at those aspects, we want to dive into the deep questions to make sure that we're being of support. And if an individual needs extra support outside of what past life regression can do for an individual, then I have a wonderful network of people that I work with in Wardruna that I can turn to and be like, hey, this individual may need more support outside of what I can do within the regression. Who would you recommend? And really, that's what our community is about. So, to unpack everything, there are several layers to how it all works. But an interview is basically the beginning of it, making sure that we know certain points of, for example, where their safe space is, where they picture their protection, where are they most happy, and then being able to bring them into that energy so that they feel protected. Now, when we're looking at a past life, sometimes people will see how they passed, but there are steps that we take to make sure they feel protected as an individual, realizing that this is just a past life that we're observing. We have spirit guides that go with them on this journey. I pull in spirit guides, so it's not just me, it's another one of their teammates that's helping them as we go on this journey. And it's very interactive. There's a lot of questions I ask throughout the past life regression so that I can record and write down information that can be really useful to help them as an individual later on.
Okay. Yeah, so I understand it a little bit better. I just wasn't even sure how you would even start it. So that was very informative.
Thank you. Also, I would say just it is like a form of meditation in a sense. So you're
Oh,
taking a person into a form of a meditation and you're getting them relaxed within their own energy, and then you're taking them back into it.
and I believe that I read or that you're a pet psychic as well. Are you going to connect with pet energies?
Correct. Yes.
What is that? How does connecting with an animal energy differ from connecting with a human who's passed?
So it's interesting because they have beautiful energies. They all do. And at least in my experience, they all do. Uh, but they present themselves a little bit differently, only in the aspects of when it comes to their experiences, we're talking about specific things that would come up with that specific pet that the owner would remember about that specific pet that crossed over. And we answer more of those deeper questions when it comes to aspects of the pet's passing, if necessary, with the person who is experiencing grief of losing their fluffy child. I like to call them fluffy children because that's what they are. The other aspect of it is a form, it's meant to help with love and healing and grief support, but it also they come over for me, they come over, it's almost like a rainbow type energy when they
Oh,
come in. It's just a different way that they flow in. I would say other than that, like when it comes to connect, what the difference is, there's just a slight energy difference between the 2, but it's nothing major. At least to me, each medium may tell you something
yeah,
different.
yeah.
But for me, it's a beautiful energy that comes through, and then we talk about those aspects. Now, if a person who's coming to me has had a pet that has not crossed over and they still want their pet red, I can do that. And that's a matter of it's like how we connect with our pets. We energetically start working with them. And for me, it started with my dog Bosco when I was a little kid. I would just get on his level and I could easily hear what he was telling me. And I watched his reactions when I'd say something out loud to see if how he would react. And then it's almost like a telepathic connection that ends up coming through with these pets. So you're connecting with them on that level, but then you're listening. That's another thing, just listening. Sometimes you just have to sit there with your pet and listen to what they're showing you with their eyes and then what you're seeing telepathically.
Okay. So have you ever had a spirit contact that you weren't prepared for, something that caught you completely off guard?
Yes, actually, yesterday this happened. Again, like my dear best friend was doing tea upstairs and I had gone into the other room and I came out, and all of a sudden I saw my friend who had passed away 8 years ago. And he was looking directly at me, but it was interesting because my best friend was sitting there talking to our other friend. But I saw my friend that passed 8 years ago look directly at me, smile, and then he disappeared. And I was like, oh, he must have just been here to say hello. But then I went downstairs and I was playing my music, and there was a specific song that I used to listen when I knew him really well that started playing on my randomizer. And I was like, okay, there's more to this. And I really wasn't expecting that at all. It shocked me. Now, if we're talking about at paranormal locations, there have been several experiences like that. Several. But on a personal level, that's a story I can share that just happened for
Wow.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. and how the song come on that it was, I don't know if I believe in fate. It was destined, maybe, so
Yeah.
it's there influencing it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like he wanted me to know that he was present. And I definitely feel like it was just a reminder to remember to take care of myself. I think that was part of it, which is something I'm doing on a regular basis now. But sometimes you need to hear it again from somebody who you love or has loved you from the other side to remind you to increase that amount of care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of moving on to some of each other paranormal investigations, because I know you've done some. Now, you worked alongside many different investigation teams. Now, how did that collaborating with investigation teams, how did that start? Did you ask them, they come to you?
So I lived in Utah for many years, and I found out about a paranormal conference that was going on at the store that I was working at the time. I was working as a medium there, and I went ahead and I asked if I could have the booth there, and I was lucky enough to get one. And I thought it was pretty amazing. I was like, okay, what are paranormal investigation teams? I had no idea because magic and the metaphysical was always the beginning for me for everything.
Yeah.
Even though I had experienced paranormal type of situations since I was a child. I don't know if you knew Scott Grunwald before he passed, but
Don't think I did. No,
he
unfortunately.
was a paranormal comedian, and he was pretty well known in certain aspects of places in Utah in the paranormal. And he walks through, we all have our booths set up. He walks through and he has this huge entourage with him. And he's walking around and he's talking to people and he's asking them questions about the paranormal. And he comes up to me and he's, hi. And I'm like, hi. and and he had such a fun energy. And he's, have you been on a paranormal investigation before? And I was like, no, I've never been on one. So there is a place called the Emperor's Theater, and they were doing their first investigation there. And they were also doing an investigation at the Family Tree restaurant, which unfortunately is no longer, it's not there anymore. But I got invited, so I ended up going to the Family Tree one first. And I fell in love with it, and they had all these cool gadgets and stuff, and I'm hearing what the spirits are telling me, and at the same time, the gadgets are going off and saying the same thing through the necrophonics, or at that time, what was it? It was Echovox that they would use. Echovox,
Yeah.
and then they had dowsing rods, they had the balls that light up, they had all kinds of things. And I'm like, this is really cool. So I was like, I think I'm going to start doing more of this. And I didn't tell anybody necessarily that I was a medium at that point in time, even though I had the booth. So I
Yeah.
started getting integrated into some of the paranormal groups. And then eventually I mentioned, well, yeah, I work at this shop and I'm a medium. And it ended up being a great opportunity to start doing mediumship within the paranormal. It is interesting, however, there are different view sets on how mediums and paranormal teams work together. And some get along really well, and some are they're more scientific instead of open to mediums. But I
Yeah.
really think that the two can go hand in hand and work together really well, depending on the team that you're working for. And it ended up being where I was traveling a lot. And so I started working with teams all over the US. And then I started having family that was in Europe that was like, we have this going on. And I was working with military families on the military bases, and they moved to different countries and they would talk to their friends about it. And so it ended up being a thing where I would not just do, because I was doing house cleansings as well, I wouldn't just do house cleansings. I started doing mediumship and I started doing energy work like Reiki, and I started doing a whole bunch of different things and then teaching as well. So it just expanded over time. Now, I was a part of two different teams. The first team that I was a part of, unfortunately, I found that they were faking evidence and I was not happy with that.
Oh,
So I disconnected from that specific team. The second team, it just wasn't the right fit. And I realized that I wanted, unfortunately, sometimes, as we know within the paranormal, there can be one team will have things a certain way that they want to do things, and then another team does it a different way and they don't necessarily get along. I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to be on a specific team. I want to work with all teams. I want to help all teams, because if I can make more of a difference by helping all these different teams, then why wouldn't I do that? And
yeah.
I think that people like myself, people like Kenneth Drake, people like Stacia Willis, other mediums, people that do this kind of work, we really, and I don't speak for everyone, obviously, but I think that we really want to make a difference and be able to help people when they are balancing whether something is paranormal, whether it's a ghost or it's something else, and then being able to connect people with people that can help. Sorry about
No,
that.
well, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're were saying. Now, when you go on these investigations, what does a medium bring to the investigation that the equipment can't?
You're bringing in someone that's a living connector to the other side. And different mediums have different formats of gifts as to how they can help in different situations. So, for example, if a medium is going into a place and they see, okay, this is a soul or a ghost that needs help, we can help them. If it's an otherworldly type being, we can pay attention to that and make sure energetically that the people that are there are safe. If there are attachments that come through, some of us can go ahead and remove those attachments from an individual. Also, some mediums aren't just mediums, they can trans channel. So they can communicate whatever it is, they can allow to a certain percentage that specific spirit to be able to speak through them. Mediums can be beneficial in many different ways. They can keep the people energetically protected and safe. They can also help with acknowledging where certain areas are really active for different teams to be able to set up different things as well. And if there are, so for example, I work with different teams that sometimes deal with missing persons. And I will be contacted on occasion to help with being able to see what I get from a medium mystic, but also spiritual level of downloaded information to help them be able to understand certain things that may have happened with this individual or missing person, or certain things in that environment. As mediums, we don't always get the full extent of the picture of what happened, but the pieces of information can be really useful for authorities.
Yeah, that is great. There's many. It sounds like many different ways that you can help in different situations.
Yeah.
So, I, if I remember correctly, when I talked to James Annitio, you went
Hmm.
to Romania and been investigated over there. Him traveling to those places. Can you tell me about the trip and what
Oh my
pulled you there?
gosh.
What happened?
It's funny because I met James in Arizona at which location was it? I met him in Arizona at one of the haunted locations, and there was a big conference, and we became really good friends really quickly. And he was talking about how he was going to Romania for 16 days. And I
Oh,
was like, that's so cool. And he's like, do you want to go? And I was like, are you kidding me? Yes. So I got my passport together, I got my ticket together, and it was a group of us that went from we went from Bucharest all the way throughout Transylvania and different points throughout different parts of Romania. And we saw many different places, like we saw many different castles, and they had some really cool things in it. We also had amazing food out there. We went to these really cool cemeteries. One of the things I really appreciated about these cemeteries is that they had stones that would tell you the stories about the individuals that had passed in some of
Oh,
them. And they also had pets that were allowed to be buried with their family member. So they would have graves for them, but it would be with the family member or right next to the family member. And I had a deep appreciation for that. The nature out there, the flowers out there were gorgeous. But also, we went to a lot of churches that were connected with Vlad the Impaler, and there were different spots that claimed that they had certain parts of his body that were buried there. And I found that to be interesting. I think my favorite place, we went into this monastery and it had images that the townspeople had drawn, and it was very old, and there was a raven in there. And
nice.
all my friends that were in there, they were like, "Raven, come here." And I looked, and there's this really cool raven looking bird that was on the wall. And there was a black castle that we went to that was really interesting, had a lot of cool energy in it. But I think what James was talking about was we went to Vlad Teplis's parents' house that had been turned into a restaurant. And when we were there, we did a seance, and we had the parents come through, and we did this live. And it was really an interesting experience because you could feel the different energy shifts that were going on, and the channeling that was coming through was really fascinating. So I feel like it was a life-changing experience for me just because there was so much magic even in the places that you would think were just normal places that you went to, that whether it was a conversation with the local townspeople or seeing the different things that we saw or trying something new. Oh my gosh. So they have this drink in Romania that I think it's called Palenka. And you take a drink of it and it's like a little shot. It's really strong. It's alcoholic and it's really strong,
Really strong.
really strong. But I don't know. We just had a great time and I made lifetime friendships there. James will always be a part of my life because of that. We bonded as friends. And there is another CL Thomas or CJ Thomas, like I bonded with her and she's great. So I made some lifetime friendships from this experience, but it also changed my view of magic a little bit and the metaphysical in the context of how I could connect with different spirits that were coming through. So it was an incredible experience for me.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It's on my bucket list to go.
Oh, it's worth it. If you get a chance to go to Bram Stoker's castle as well, worth it.
Yeah, that's that in the UK, Scotland, Ireland, Wales, all of that whole area is
Mhm.
on my all of that's on my bucket list. I want to do that someday.
It's worth it. You'll love it. And the pricing out there for things, I was impressed. They're not that expensive for things out there. So you could really literally go out there and have a wonderful time.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's something that I'm hoping to someday do. Now, of all the places, all the locations that you've investigated, which one has left something with you that you couldn't shake? Or has there been one?
The Empress Theatre. The Empress Theatre for sure. There was two things that happened at the Empress Theater that really hit me. One of them was actually really pleasant. There was this older couple that we were communicating with that had crossed over, and they were lovers as younger children, and they married, and they ended up having wonderful experiences, and they would always come to this theater. And it was just really funny. They would interact with the necrophonics and the balls, and it was just my first really positive experience on an investigation because they were funny. But they also warned us about going to a certain part of the theater around, I think it was like midnight, because the energy shift changed. Of course, some of the people in the group went over there around that time, and there was a huge energy shift, and there was something that was not quite human that was over there, unfortunately. So it was like we had to do some cleansings for some people because it was not a soul, it was more like an energy that had come through a portal that we were looking at, and we're
Oh,
like, maybe not."
yeah, yeah. You don't really want to mess with those.
Yeah. But then also there is the insane asylum that we went to in Tooele, Utah. And that was an interesting experience because we went down to this one room and we were told a story about this man that was a veteran that liked to sit in a rocking chair, and that you had to ask for permission if you could go into the room or not. Otherwise, you would see physical repercussions of this. And there were a few people that didn't listen to that. And two of them just got these really strong, massive headaches. And they unfortunately had to go back to the main area and relax for a little bit. But it was interesting because I saw him sitting in the chair and he was watching a show on, I think it was airplanes. And I asked, I was like, "Can I have your permission to come in the room?" And he smiled and he said yes. And there were people that were watching from outside the room. And I came in the room and the rocking chair started moving back and forth on its own because he was rocking back and forth in it. And he was telling me about his grandchildren and how much he missed them and how the war had affected their family. And we got some really cool stuff that came through on the systems that we had, like for necrophonics and echovox at the time, and the different lights, the REM pods and those kinds of things that came through. And when I went out of there, I actually felt like I had left with a blessing instead of the headaches and stuff. But really, this man just needed to see that people were respecting his energetic space, even though he had crossed over. And that's why he ended up making people feel sick when they wouldn't listen.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is quite the story. And one of the things I have to say is that I do believe that I dreamt that story last week because
Really?
I don't know if you noticed when you were telling it, I went like this because I remember I knew the story before you told it.
Huh.
I don't I don't know. It's weird, but it was almost a deja vu moment.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that was strange. But anyway, I figured I'd now have you been to many historical places. What is probably the most historic? Would it be in Romania, or have you been to any other really historical places?
Gettysburg. Gettysburg was extremely active for me, and I wasn't expecting it. I stayed at this Airbnb, and there was an older woman and this young man that was inside this Airbnb, these spirits, these souls. And I was exhausted from the trip I had before I had gotten to Gettysburg. And the young man really wanted my attention. And when I tell you that he was making things move downstairs when I was trying to sleep, and when he lifted my I was on the bed talking to my sister at that time. She's not my a blood related sister, but she's his sister.
Yeah.
The bed literally lifted and shifted to the side. And I was like, okay, that's it. We're going to have a conversation about boundaries. So I ended up talking to this young gentleman that had been in the war. And I said, I will happily talk to you, but I need rest before I can communicate with you. And I kid you not, till about 2 or 3 in the morning, the noises were going off downstairs. And I finally went downstairs. There's an electric fireplace down there. And I know for a fact that I turned that off when I went upstairs to bed. When I tell you that fireplace was on full blast and that it was hot as hell downstairs, it was.
Wow.
So I ended up doing this full session with him. And honestly, he just wanted acknowledgement. He just wanted somebody to be able to acknowledge his story. He had died in the war when everybody had gone out. He had a girlfriend that he was going to propose to when he got back, and he's just a little bit mischievous. And so that was interesting. And then going into Gettysburg and driving, you know how they have the big fields where they have the different monuments and it tells their different stories. When I got up to the bell tower, I had quite a few of the souls that had crossed over that was communicating through my systems and then just talking to me. And it is probably one of the most active locations as far as historical spots that I have been to before, but it blew my mind. It really did.
Yeah.
Very
I,
active place.
I'm hoping to get there in the next year or two. I really want to go to Gettysburg and Salem. Those are two on my bucket list I've never been to.
Salem,
That,
it's beautiful here. It's a lot of history and it extends out to Beverly and Danvers and surrounding parts. There's such a huge amount of history and places that the locals here know about that most people don't. So it's worth it to come out.
I really do want to go at some point. It's
Mhm.
on the bucket list for U.S. places. I've been to Boston. I walked the Freedom Trail. That was fun. I
Mhm.
did all the Boston stuff, but I never made it to Salem.
Come out and visit and let me know when you come. It'll be a fun adventure. I can show you a few places.
Yeah, I will. Hopefully that'll be soon.
Yeah.
So the other thing I did notice when I was, I think, looking at your Instagram, you have a book out, correct?
Yes. So I have a new book that's coming out, and that will be available at the Connecticut Paracon that's coming up in, I believe it's June. I have to go ahead and double check on it. But I'm really excited about it. It's a documentary about my experiences, at least the first book will be about my travels and experiences with mediumship and how I got to where I am today. And the next book is going to start a series of paranormal stories. So there are different characters that will represent some aspects of different people in my life. Some parts of it will be fictional and some parts of it will not be. But I'm really looking forward to creating a series on it as well. So paranormal fiction, but the first book is nonfiction because it's a way for people to get to know me.
Yeah, yeah. No, I did see that when I was kind of researching and what I wanted to ask you. I was like, oh, I'm gonna make sure I ask her about her book.
Hmm.
Uh, can you also have a podcast, The Medium Frequency, on the
Yes.
All Access Network? Can you tell
Mhm.
me a little bit about that? I think you have a co-host as well.
I do. So the medium frequency is on All Access Network TV and it's located, you can see it live on my page or John's page. or Litriana's page, Litriana Terry Brown, or you can go to YouTube and look it up. And our show currently is on Monday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We have different types of people that come on our show. We talk about the metaphysical, we talk about paranormal, we also talk about different fun things that we enjoy. So it's been 6 months now with our show, and it's pretty exciting. We are going to make a couple of small changes pretty soon here. Details are still being worked out on it, but it's all positive and it's going to be amazing for the future guests that come on. Even more amazing than it has been now. And Christopher Brown is my co host, and he joined in November, and I absolutely adore him. He's an amazing musician, he's got a good heart, he's also a medium. And so we've been doing it for quite some time now. We have Aja coming up next week on our show. So it'll be an incredible experience to have her on there. And we have more good people that are going to be coming on who have different gifts. It's a show I'm very passionate about.
I know I try to catch it when I as I can.
Thank you.
I do enjoy it. It's just Monday nights are iffy sometimes for me. But now, are you? I know you mentioned the Connecticut Paracon. Are you doing any others, or is going to
Yes.
be this?
So in Maine, they are going to be doing the Maine Horror Paranormal Conference. I will be at that one as well with Christopher Brown. And those are the two primary ones that I'm doing this year. I had some health stuff, and so this year I've been taking it a little bit more of a slow pace just to make
Yeah,
sure my health is in a good spot. We do have two galleries that we're going to be doing. One is actually we have three. We have three. So we have the one on September 24th that will be at Merkaba Soul that we have coming up. And then we are going to be doing our first investigation and gallery event at Wilson Castle in June on the 22nd. And then September 4th, we're going to be doing another one. So it'll include a gallery, a dinner, and then the investigation. And more details are going to be coming out for that pretty soon. We're just kind of working on getting the advertising together. We'll have spots for about 20 people, and it will be an incredible experience. On the second event, Kenneth Drake will be joining us.
and no, on Wilson's Castle, it's I've only been there once, but loved it. I did have an experience in the pink room. If you're
Mhm.
there, that room is very heavy, and the closer you get to the closet, to me, it was choking. It's very. It got heavier and heavier as you go. I did go in the closet, took the picture my daughter wanted, but I quickly wanted to get out of that room.
I haven't been to Wilson Castle yet. This will be my first time going. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, that's it's beautiful. There's so much history, and there's a lot of stuff that they brought in there too. Yeah, I love the place. I can't wait to go back to it again.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
so I'll definitely send you the details of it once we have the advertisement for it.
okay, that'd be great. I think it's about an hour and a half to two away from me, but it's not too far.
That's awesome.
But no, I think we've had a great conversation tonight. You have a couple more minutes. I don't know if I've anything else you wanted to plug or anything like that for tonight or
If anybody would like to get a hold of me or see some of the events that are going on, they can add me on Facebook, Raven Wolf with an E, or we on Instagram, we have Salem in the Moonlight, but eventually we'll have a medium frequency page. You can also email me at the medium frequency at gmail.com. we do have an email set up. We're just kind of working out some of those details. Also, if you would like to have me at a conference or as a special guest, please feel free to reach out. But beyond, that's pretty much anything,
Okay.
the other items I want to plug for now.
And of course, I'll put all of those in the description so
Hmm.
that if anyone wants to find you, it'll be easily found right in the description section. Raven, it's been great talking to you. And for listeners, like I said, everything will be in the description below. And if tonight's conversation interests you, make sure you can share that with your friends. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell button, and I'll see you next time. And remember, history truly never truly dies. It just finds new ways to haunt us. Keep digging into the darkness.